What's up guys, it's Nightwing2303 from WearTesters.com, and today finally pick up the Air Jordan project right where I left off at the Air Jordan 20. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into it. So when you first look at the traction provided, you can't help but think that you're going to receive some really awesome traction, especially since there's herringbone in these pods. Unfortunately, that wasn't always the case. The herringbone is a bit inconsistent, which is quite a disappointment because this is the section of the shoe where you really assume that it's going to perform exceptionally well. Its main problem is just that it kind of just gets clogged up super fast. There's not very much herringbone, so what little coverage you do have of the herringbone, it just kind of gets caked up with whatever debris might be on the floor. Surprisingly enough though, this whole exterior section, these like big thick grooves, they actually grip the floor really nicely. It would be really awesome if it was more consistent with the pattern, either one kind of way or the other, either all herringbone or all this stuff. So with constant wiping and upkeep while on court, it's not a big deal, especially on clean court. It's not going to be a huge factor, but if you do play on pretty dusty courts, this is definitely going to give you some inconsistent coverage. So the cushioning system is IPS. That's also known as independent podular suspension. It's an interesting cushion, and this is the first shoe that it was ever featured on. Now if you guys watched my previous review of the shoe, just kind of like the quick look, you already know that the IPS system that is in place in the older models is a little bit more firm, and it gets that way over time. So what I recommend is getting a fresh pair, just because the foam is not going to be hard. So basically what IPS is you have a Phylon midsole, which is the carrier, and then each of these podded sections is a different density foam, and then I don't know if you could see it, but basically the pod protrudes out couple millimeters, and then there's also a few millimeters of space in between this pod and the Phylon itself. So what basically happens if you have these little pistons everywhere, kind of like marshmallows, marshmallow pistons, and so you're stepping on the floor and it's going to compress and then widen out, giving you impact protection, and then when you're releasing pressure off your stride, it's going to bounce back into shape, giving you some responsiveness. Like I said earlier, if it's on an older pair, like an original pair, for whatever reason, unless these are broken in, the softer foam is just going to firm up and it's going to be pretty uncomfortable. But if you get anything from, say, the Countdown pack to the most recent ones like these guys, or even the Stealths that are coming out, you're going to be just fine. And when it's brand new, this stuff is awesome. It just feels like you're running on marshmallow clouds. It's amazing. So I do really like the cushion setup. Another shoe that you can actually find this in is the Jordan Icons, and it basically uses the Air Jordan 20 tooling, so the midsole, outsole, and cushion, and then they have a redesigned upper. Now materials are going to vary depending on the colorway that you choose, but they basically give you three options. They give you patent leather, such as the Stealths, and then they're going to give you a leather option, which is like these guys, and then you also have the suede versions, such as this. Basically the pairs with patent leather are going to require slightly more break-in time, but they will offer a little bit more support, while the nubuck pairs offer less support as well as less break-in time, but that's only slightly less support. It's not like anything crazy. I've played in both of them and they played almost identically. And then you have these guys here, which is kind of like the random release. I don't remember too many Air Jordan 20s having a full-on leather upper like this, but this is actually like a really nice leather. It's very soft, so there's very little break-in time required, and it offers support, so it's kind of like the best of both worlds. So out of the three options, the patent, the leather, and the nubuck, the leather is going to be like the most neutral, but it's just kind of nice that they have those three options available. So gives everybody something to kind of look forward to. So no matter if you want extra support or less support, there's something out there for everyone. Now as far as their fit, I do feel that the 20s fit slightly big. I have two different sizes. These are an 8.5. The blue pair I have is a 9, and then the red pair is an 8.5. And out of the two, they pretty much work for me, but I do prefer the 8.5. It's just got a slightly more snug feel. It just kind of wraps around and envelopes your foot a little bit better in my opinion. So that's what I personally prefer, but if you are a wide footer, you might want to just try going with your true size, because like I said, there's just a little bit of extra space, which might work out really well for you. Plus the materials on most of these pairs, with the exception of the patent leather versions, are going to break in really nicely, so wide footers might not have an issue altogether. Now the only real fit issue that I've encountered while playing in these guys is just that this particular colorway is a pain in the ass to put on. The original versions that I have, the inner sleeve right here is made out of like a stretch leather, so when you're putting the shoe on, basically you're going to hold that strap back, you're going to put your foot in there. What I like to do is hold the strap while I'm pushing my foot at the same time, so it kind of opens and stretches this area up, and that's supposed to give you easy access. But this guy here, this material is not stretchy whatsoever, so even though I do pull on the strap, sometimes I feel like I'm about to rip the strap right off trying to get my foot inside. But once the shoe is on, they fit like a glove. I really like how they feel. The inner lining's super comfortable, and then the lockdown is fantastic. With this midfoot strap here, it's just giving you extreme lockdown in the shoe, and then the entire shoe, because it is so snug, just gives you like a really nice wraparound feel. Now these are basically a low top shoe, so if you kind of take that out of the equation, it's a straight up low top. Probably actually the first Air Jordan to be a full-on low top without like any variations before it that were either a mid or a high. Despite being a low, these things have amazing support. First, you have this ultra wide base right here, which provides you with 2 giant outriggers, and I absolutely loved it. Super stable, even with the slight protrusion of the IPS system. Almost every time I play lately, in any shoe that I've been playing in, a lot of people have been getting real close to me while I'm trying to shoot, and they'll get under my feet, and so I'll land on them. And I've rolled my ankle more times the last 2 months than I'd like to admit. But while I was wearing these guys here, every time I landed on somebody's foot, these things are so wide that I'm able to kind of stabilize myself as soon as I hit the floor pretty darn quickly. So these quickly became an on-court favorite for me just off of that fact alone. Now the rest of the support comes from that lockdown that I was explaining about earlier in the fit section. This strap is awesome. One thing that I like about the strap is that when you tie your laces, you tuck them under, you strap them closed, you don't have to double knot, and you just forget about them altogether. And it also gives you lateral support as well. So if you're shifting side to side, moving, changing directions, whatever you might be doing, this strap is basically creating tension because it's wrapped all the way onto the other side of the medial. There is a second strap on the shoe, which is very apparent, and this one absolutely does nothing. It's just kind of there for placebo, and most of the time it just kind of gets in the way. The only thing that I really like it for is that it helps me get the shoe on, and if it wasn't for that, I'd probably have cut this thing off already. One thing that you can do to keep it out of the way is open this little flap tab here, and then you're going to put that in between the strap and close it, and it turns into almost a one piece, so there's no moving and things like that, because I really didn't like how this thing moved with my ankle the entire time that I was on court. So what I like to do is just kind of tuck it in there, and then you just forget about it. So overall, I'm super happy that I ended up grabbing these. Wasn't too happy about the price because these things were wickedly expensive, but they were so much more comfortable than the original pairs I have based on their age alone. For whatever reason, that foam just kind of really seizes up, and it was really uncomfortable. But having these fresh new pairs, it just really helped that I was able to experience IPS the way that you're meant to, and it's extremely comfortable. These are actually one of my favorite Jordans to play in as far as the signature line goes from 1 to 23 at this point in time. If you want to know my top 3 as of right now, being within this Jordan project, my number 1 choice would be the Air Jordan 12. My second choice would be these guys here, the Air Jordan 20, and then my third choice would be the Air Jordan 19. Anything that I'd change about the shoe, like I said earlier, I just get rid of this strap. This thing is pointless, and it's kind of in the way, and it doesn't even look good, at least in my opinion. And then lastly, I just kind of change the traction up just a little bit, make everything one pattern or the other, just to give you some sort of consistency. Other than that, everything was pretty much first class. These things are extremely comfortable, they fit great, and they provide you with quite a bit of support with plenty of mobility and range of motion with that low top feature. So if you want to play in a pair of Air Jordan 20s, these things are still awesome. Definitely go out and grab a pair, especially if you could find a pair for under retail. I would check eBay first, try to get that countdown pack version, because those things usually sell for way under retail. Or you can just grab one of the new colorways that's coming out. They're coming out with the Stealth this Saturday, so if you wanted to grab a pair, they are definitely on court ready. So thank you guys for watching. Thanks for all your support. Stay tuned for this performance scorecard, and until next time guys, have a good one.